Oi, I'm up here. Hello, I'm Jo Brand, stand-up comedian, although I do quite like a sit-down these days. I was actually a psychiatric nurse for 10 years, which may be why they've invited me here today to the private view of Grayson Perry Provincial Punk here at the Turner Contemporary in Margate. Grayson, who famously accepted his Turner Prize dressed as his transvestite alter ego Claire, has been popping up all over the place on the telly and the radio and is in danger of becoming a national treasure. This show goes right back to the start of his career, the sex, the drugs, the earthenware, so it's a chance to see how this brilliant and subversive character has made his mark. Lot of pots. And what can I say about the pots? They're all in individual, in their own cases, and you can't touch them and go, wonder what that pot feels like a pot probably. And we kind of start off over here, they're a bit smaller and a little bit less decorated, and then we seem to sort of move around and kind of get a bit more colourful and a bit bigger. Story of my life. I've got a bit more colourful and a bit bigger as I've gone on. I think my grandma would go, what a shame there's no flowers in any of them. Right, well, we start with this. This is a bit weird because this looks like a sort of Victorian hot water bottle to me. And it has actually got, I think that's Queen Victoria on that end. But down there it says Class War. So, moving on, I think from a distance you would think, oh, this is rather lovely, but that says Armageddon seems so very reassuring on it, and it's got a big bomb on it, and a big CND symbol. I was youngish at the same time he was, and so I remember all the CND marches and all the scary films about Sheffield being hit by a nuclear bomb and all that. So it was in everyone's subconscious at the time. This little tiny one here says acid on it, which I'm presuming means LSD. We all did that in the 70s. I actually had my drink spiked in a pub and I didn't know anything about what was going on until I walked past a phone box and there was a monk in it swinging a dead cat backwards and forwards. I then had some deliberately at a party, and all the sandwiches had the face of Andy Williams, and they were singing Can't Get Used to Losing You. It is good fun, but don't try it at home, kids. Especially not my kids. We move round to this one, which again, it's beautiful. Beautiful colours. There's two guys here who look like they're really expressing their emotions in the pub. We all know they don't do that unless they've just been to football. And then, blimey, this is a woman trying to do the washing up. So that's like really reminds me of me, because I'm always trying to do the washing up and giving up after about 3 seconds. But someone behind us just having a feel up of one of her bosoms, and well, they've got a dress on and they've got a penis. So I think that we can all work out what that is. Children, have a think. Yes, it might be a transvestite. Anyway, there's a transvestite feeling up someone who's trying to do the washing up, and she's looking out the window, which is quite an unusual subject for a pot, I think you'd agree. And looking at all these early examples of Grayson's work, can I just apologise in advance, Grayson? If I'm talking bollocks, I apologise, but I might have to. I think what he's done here is he's sort of tried to find his feet about how he can express himself as an artist. So he's got this sort of odd kind of chasm between what we think of as pretty and delicate vases, which have flowers in, lovely, but on them he's got kind of images that you just wouldn't expect. And so when you come up close to look and sort of go, oh, isn't that lovely? And then you see a character sticking his tongue out saying, fuck you. And I think he refers to these as stealth bombs, because he kind of pulls you in to look at the detail of it. And you're going, oh, Grandma, come and have a look at this. Isn't this beautiful? And then Grandma goes, is that someone's penis out? And someone that's trying to do the washing up? And you go, I do believe it is, Grandma. Let's move on to the tea shop. So here's Grayson's alter ego, Claire. Now, I have to say, it's a very specific sort of outfit for me. It looks very old-fashioned and kind of quite upper class, because it's like the sort of outfit you'd see in a nursery rhyme, like Little Bo Peep. It feels like that's, in a way, how he wished his childhood could have been. This is amateur psychology, even though I'm a professional psychologist, because I did a psychology degree, but I was a bit of an amateur at it. You've got a cat here that looks like it's possessed by the devil, so don't ask me. I don't know. This one's called Sex, Drugs and Earthenware. And so round this side, we've got Michael Jackson there, accompanied by Kurt Cobain. And these seem to be, well, symbolic, I suppose, of unhappy celebrities and what maybe sex and drugs have done to their life. There's Grayson dressed up there in a very unpleasant blouse, if I may be so bold. Underneath that picture of him, there's a sort of ad which says, transvestite gorgeous sissy seeks position as maid to strict lady, loves B and D, bondage and D, don't know, drink, I don't know, rubber, humiliation, cock torture, well, we all love that, will change my body for you. And then there are various kind of symbols picked out in gold, raised symbols. You've got a revolver, you've got a naked torso. I don't even know what that is. And there again is somebody with bosoms squirting, with their mouth squirting, with their eyes squirting, crying, in other words. Although I suppose we could, and with their penis squirting as well. So everything that can squirt is squirting, apart from their bum. That's not squirting, it's all coming out the front. Don't ask me what the hell that means. I haven't got the faintest idea, but I can think of a lot of people I'd like to buy that for Christmas for. I think I'm picking this up a bit, really, because I think if you look for the title first off, then you get a little doorway through into what Grayson's trying to show us. So this one is a metaphor for the human condition, bollocks. And, you know, I have to say I concur absolutely with that sentiment, because I think if you look at the symbols that he's put on this, there's kind of an odd mixture of things on here. You know, you've got quite twee things, like a nice cat and some lovely flowers here. And I think it's him going like that at art lovers, really, in a way, because he's saying, I'm just going to put what I want on it, and it doesn't particularly mean anything. You know, I think a lot of the time, it's quite entertaining when you see people going around art galleries and they're doing that kind of strokey beard thing. Oh, I wonder what he intended, you know. And actually, the fact that we're constantly looking for meaning, it's perhaps a message to us not to bother, just to look at it. And it's just got such odd things on it. I mean, why has he put a windmill on it? And down here at the bottom, in a tiny little box here, is his mark, which apparently he puts on all his pottery, which is a W and an anchor. I do cryptic crosswords. Can I quite work that one out? Yes. Wanker, everybody. And I think that's one of Grayson's, well, may not be one of his contemporary hobbies, but certainly in the past it's been a popular hobby for him. I refuse to say anything about my hobby. Right, this one in some ways looks sort of quite plain to me. It's only two colours and there's lots of lines on it. And from what I can see, it's people at an art exhibition, and I know that Damien Hirst's shark in a tank is there. So I think this is probably a dig at Charles Saatchi and his collection of very fashionable, cool British artists. And each person who's depicted here, we're told which label they're wearing, which car they drive, and where they're from. So, for example, you've got someone wearing Paul Smith, drives a Ducati bike and comes from EC1, as opposed to someone who's wearing Oxfam, drives a rally bike and is from E15. Here's me here, because we've got a fat lady who's dressed from Evans. She drives a Toyota. We've got a Toyota. And, oh, she's from Manchester. Damn, fell at the final hurdle there. But she shouldn't be at that exhibition, because she's too cool. He's kind of showing a lack of respect for these people, and he's taking the piss out of them, really. And I think that's fair enough, because I think there's a vast swathe of the art world where no one really knows what the proper price of anything is, and people do talk absolute tosh about art, and it's not the artistic merit which decides how much something's worth. So I feel he's definitely on the right track. Well, from a distance, if it had handles on it, this would actually look like a football trophy, and it's actually, I think, called something like "Football Stands for Everything I Hate." And there are lots of things about football that could be hateful, but I love football, and he's decorated it with everything that he hates. Now, how much they are actually related to football, let me just have a look round and see. Lonely playgrounds, for a start off. That's got nothing to do with football, has it? But then again, on the other hand, mob rule, you could say, has. Bad tattoos also have. Male bonding, he hates male bonding. Me too. What else have we got? Special brew, yuck, yes. Shouting, yes. Aftershave, lotion, yes. Grayson Perry associates football with the kind of worst excesses of maleness. If you're kind of an unusual boy at school that doesn't really like sports particularly, you are made to feel like a right knob and a right outcast. So to get those feelings out, I think that does represent some sort of therapy, really. We should all have a sort of imaginary vase like this in our heads. And write down all the things we hate on it. I wonder if he finished it and then thought, oh God, and I hate cornettos as well, and I've got no room left. I wonder. Apparently, Grayson Perry was obsessed with planes when he was a little boy, which is it's quite odd, really, because there's this odd, I never thought I'd use this word, but I will, juxtaposition of planes on the one side and quite girly things on the other side, which you very rarely see. Boys are either boys and girls the same, girly girls. It's unusual to get a mixture of both of them. I hate planes. So this is self-portrait with eyes poked out. Something nice to think about over dinner. I think that he intended this to be about ugliness, and the eyes poked out bit is because some things are just so ugly you would rather poke your eyes out than look at them. That's got a very slightly classical Greek theme for me, because I think lots of people in Greek mythology either got their eyes pecked out or poked out or gouged out or whatever. So if we go round it, we can just see all the things that he thought were ugly. For example, what have you got? Estate agent signs, and here This is the sort of pound shop type ads that you get. This belongs to and is in the collection of my very good friend Elton John and my sworn enemy David Furnish, who married Elton John before I got my hands on it. Now this one here is called Good and Bad Taste, and to me it's sort of an attempt to contrast different tastes amongst different classes. See, what we've got here is got some very harmless kind of bland pictures out of catalogues of things that people that read the Radio Times might want to buy. But in the yellow and blue, which apparently speaks to Grayson of middle-class drawing rooms, it basically got S&M porn. See? You've got some very kind of mediocre, middle-of-the-road photos surrounded by utter filth, if I'm honest. This is what I'd do if I was bringing my mum round. And I'm trying to save you from the rude bits, okay? She might be offended. I think I've got that right. How can I put it politely? People are all tied up. There's a woman there who's vacuuming her Auntie Mary, as we used to call it. I think you know what I mean. I'd put that on my mantelpiece, though. So this private view is the most private view I've ever been to, because they haven't even finished doing it yet. So if you hear like drilling bumps, that sort of thing, it's not me having root canal work. That's tomorrow, okay? This is amazing. I really love this. I just think it's so exquisite, so detailed. It's Grayson, I suppose, and all the elements of him and what makes him him, what's important, what clashes, but it's also really funny as well. It's got some great comedy in it. You see, I think if I had to put all the elements of me into something like this, I'd only have about 7, because I have a paucity of imagination, which he obviously doesn't have, and it's just stunning, absolutely stunning. It reminds me a bit of an artist called Richard Dadd, who was a patient in the Maudsley Hospital, and used to do these very intricate sort of internal references to what was going on in his brain. But it's actually there's so much in it, it's kind of quite overwhelming, really. So I refuse to be overwhelmed, so I'm going to go over here. Well, this is Grayson in the filmmaking phase of his art journey, as it were. It's called Bungalow Depression, and he is dressed in women's clothes, but it's not Claire, because Claire is a very sort of definite kind of character with a particular sort of little girl appearance, and this appearance we see here is just far more like you would imagine a kind of housewife, I suppose, in the 1970s or 80s in the bungalow. It makes me really happy that he stuck to pots, because I honestly can't glean anything out of that, and in fact it's made me quite cross. And I'm not getting that out on video again. This one's Secret Woman, and it's got quite a long bit of text on it which says, "At the secret core of my existence is a special woman. I may never know her name or ever smell her perfume where she's been, but the fact that she lives I will celebrate forever." And I think this is the point at which kind of Claire is coming into focus, really, and he's beginning to sort of make her more concrete in his life. It is very unusual to find someone who's seems to be so comfortable about revealing the inner bits of themselves that most of us are just either too embarrassed or too ashamed or just too scared of telling people close to us about, let alone making something like this out of it. So I think it's really refreshing in a way, because actually, you know, the British way is to keep it all inside, don't tell anyone, you know, be ashamed, be private, don't have any feelings. So I think it's really fantastic to see Grayson, and it makes the rest of us think, oh, thank God someone else has done it, now I can. This magnificent specimen is called Mad Kid's Bedroom Wall, and I think it illustrates in quite a dark way just what a difficult childhood Grayson had, and he used art to escape from it, having written an essay about himself, which he was encouraged to do by a teacher, that actually what his art had to be all about was himself, and that it was a way out of his prison of a childhood, which many people just don't manage to do. So on this, he's written, "I was a mad kid and now I ain't. I got out because I could paint." I think that sums it up perfectly. So here we have the magnificent Walthamstow